really to work on. It's more like a workshop and not technology. For PeeringDB, for this workshop, we have set up a completely separate database which we filled in with the live database. And all this information you find is at tutorial.peeringdb.com. And I really would suggest that you work on this database. Of course, if you already know what PeeringDB is, you, of course, can also work on your live data. But I strongly suggest, and especially the information you find on the sheet only works for tutorial.peeringdb.com, because there we use the documentation ASNs, and the documentation ASNs for sure do not work in the live database, because they are for documentation only and not for a live database. So this workshop is in two parts. First, I would like perhaps, if you think it's good, I would just give you the other microphone and just say who you are, from which company you are, and perhaps if you also like to do is what the reason is to attend. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Varun from India.
Perhaps just stand up and turn around to the audience.
Sorry. Hi, I'm Varun from India. I run my small network called AS132383. It's I run it for hobby purposes. I'm here to know more about PeeringDB and how it works.
Hi, I'm Warwick Mitchell from ARNet, AS7575. We are in PeeringDB. I thought this was more likely to be about the API interface, so that was what I was more interested in, because I've written scripts to query data from the API. So I do know how to use it, but that's all okay.
For those, unfortunately, this workshop, because it's basic, it will not touch the API at all, unfortunately, because the API, it's already advanced stuff. But I'm happy to talk to you afterwards to answer your questions.
Hi, I'm Sharizan from 24514, Malaysian Research Education Network, my rank. We are on the PeeringDB, but I'm attending this session to get any new information regarding the topics.
Hi, my name is Raj from Bloomberg. I'm sort of new to PeeringDB, so I'm interested to learn.
Hi, I'm Kaushalya. I'm from Sri Lanka and working for Sri Lanka Telecom. We are using PeeringDB for updating our status of the peering state, the detail in network information of the our network.
Hi, Siki. I'm from Twitch. So basically, I'm here is just to get a refresher and to learn, keep learning. I don't assume I know, but it's good to be here.
Hi, my name is Junko Nozaki from Seiko Solutions. We actually don't have any AS numbers, but our customers are the internet service providers that I'd like to give some ideas of how network is working.
Hello, my name is Iku. I'm from BBIX, which is a Japanese IX provider. PeeringDB is one of the very important, useful database that we use every day, so I'm hoping to fully utilize the website, and that's why I'm here.
Please give the mic to these new guys who just came in. And for those who came in, if you really want to participate, here is a sheet of paper, please grab one, because this is not a tutorial in that sense, it's more a workshop where you have to really work on data. Yeah, please.
Hi, I'm from Singapore. So I saw this website before, but I'm not so sure whether can it be trusted. So that's what I want to find out.
Yeah, if you, as said, for those coming in, please grab a sheet of paper to have the data available which you have to put in the database. If you don't want, it's also fine with me, but you most benefit really from it if you get the sheet of paper over here. Okay, thank you. So this workshop is two parts. First is really to talk about what PeeringDB is, the organization behind it, the history, the association, and perhaps the committee. So what is best, what we can describe PeeringDB in a short sentence. So we are a non-profit member-based organization which facilitates the exchange of user-maintained interconnection-related information, primarily for peering coordinator and internet exchanges facility and network operators. So someone just mentioned that they don't have an ASN, but for interconnection there is more than just network. So for interconnection we also need information about collocations, and we also need information about internet exchanges. And definitely, so PeeringDB is already around since 15 years, and it really, someone said, okay, it would be nice to have information when it comes to where should I dig up information when I want to peer with someone. And that is the reasoning behind it. As a network, a PeeringDB record makes it easy for you and for other networks to find you and to help establish peering and interconnection. And as a collocation provider, it definitely creates visibility because other networks know that you are around, that you are selling services, what networks are in your facilities. And as an internet exchange, it does the same. It provides information about your participants, the collocations where you are selling services. And PeeringDB is providing this information in two ways: a user-friendly graphical user interface, and what Warwick O'Reilly is most interested in is an API. And the API, this is something which you perhaps need if you want to automate your interconnection setups. So in terms of the organization, roughly 4 years ago, we founded a United States-based volunteer organization, which is 100% funded by sponsorship. We try to build financial reserves that we also are able to live next year and the year after next year. So who is able to become a member? Everyone is able to become a member. You simply have to be a company and simply subscribe to our mailing list, and then you are done. So who is governing the association? Then of course we have you, the members, who elect the board, and we have one virtual online membership meeting once per year. The next one will be around in April. Then of course we have a board consisting of 6 people currently who look after the strategic directions and overlook the financial issues. And what we do is we swap out, or half of the board is re-elected every year to give chance to get new members in. On the other hand, what we do not do is to completely re-elect the board to have continuity. Then we have the committees, and the committees more or less are responsible for the day-to-day work. We have different committees. We have the admin committee, which best is described of as our support department. This gets all the user tickets. This all the admin committees get the request for new records to be added, for networks, for internet exchanges, for facilities, and answers support tickets. Then we have the operations committee. So behind, of course, our database and the whole service, there is a physical infrastructure currently running on AWS, and they are taking care of that for the day-to-day operations and also for the development of these services. Then we have the outreach committee, which best is described as the marketing committee. This manages the marketing and social media and develop and maintain presentation workshops and webinars. And this is also where I'm also part of, and that's the reason I'm standing here. And I already mentioned it, it's the first time we do this workshop because we find a simpler presentation is not enough. We have to explain in more detail what PeeringDB is, how it works, because it's not necessarily everything self-explaining, and especially if it comes to deeper details as the API, a deeper knowledge is needed. Last but not least, we also have the product committee, and this takes care that it's really crucial for the whole interconnection business. And then it was that the graphical user interface or the whole software was redeveloped, and also the association was funded. As you can see, since then, the support tickets massively jumped up, not because we have a lot of bugs or so, but people really got more interested in and even found it more useful. And also, as mentioned before, we are 100% relying on sponsorship. We have different sponsorship levels, and you can read what we have, and especially bigger organizations, they find it very useful to have PeeringDB because what they say is they are peering with hundreds and even thousands of other networks, and they say if you want to have a session with us, if you want to peer via the route server with us, you have to have a PeeringDB record, and we at least need all the information in your PeeringDB record, and they extract simply the information from PeeringDB, and by that they are able to offload tons of other works and are happy to pay us for this service. So the board meets 2 times or 1 time a year and sets the direction for the running year and the year after. And the basic is really what we want to do is to ensure reliability, security, and support of PeeringDB services. This is most important because meanwhile a lot of people are relying on our services, and then definitely also to develop an enhanced functionality. So if you have something what you think would be cool to have in PeeringDB, just let us know and we will take care of that. So this is more or less for the introductory part where I tell you a little bit of the background of PeeringDB, where it comes from, and what the purpose of PeeringDB is. For those who came in, if you want to have most of the workshop, please grab a sheet of paper over here, because now I really start with the workshop, and you will need this information to put into PeeringDB. You see? Just come forward and take a sheet. So this is the next part, and we are happy to say that this workshop is a joint work of DKIX Academy and PeeringDB. So most of the material was developed at DKIX by Wolfgang Trammell. So once again, there is a special tutorial database. Please write your browser to https://tutorial.peeringdb.com. It also says, you always see at the logo, that it is the tutorial database. And this is the agenda for the rest of today. What we will do is, first of all, learn how to register both yourself as well as your organization. Then the next step is about adding information about your organization, about your network, and adding your peering policy. Then we cover the topics internet exchanges and facilities. And in the last step, we try to retrieve information. For those just coming in, please feel free to grab a sheet over here. On this sheet you find information which you will need for the rest of the workshop. So, although it says registering in the first step, I have to mention that most of the information in PeeringDB does not need an account. Especially if you only want to retrieve information, there is no need to have an account. All the information about facilities, networks, collocations is accessible publicly only when it comes to information which is not necessary for everyone, like NOC24, contact information, telephone numbers, email addresses. These might be hidden to the public. Okay, so does everyone have a sheet of paper? At least those who are interested in working with me? Yes? So first what we do is, as said, please direct your browser to tutorial.peeringdb.com. And the first step is what we do is to register. You see in the upper right corner, you see a URL where you are able to register. Just click on that. And what you should see in the next one is to create an account. Does everyone have that? If so, please create an account. That will take a little bit. Choose a username, what either something, what some people do, it does not necessarily have to be an email address. Some choose to have this email address. The downside is if you change your employer, you will also have to change your account. So whatever you do. Then a password. The password does not have to be fancy, but it at least has to be 10 characters long. Then also have an email address, because in the next step you will have to acknowledge your email address. So do not please use someone else's email address or a fancy email address, then you will not be able to work in the rest of the tutorial. Okay? Then put in your, as said, your email address, your first name, last name, that does not really matter. And then also put a tick in the reCAPTCHA. Clear so far? Any questions? Did you do it? If you did it, please check your mailbox. You should be able to, or you should find an email from peeringdb.com in your mailbox. It is tagged with PeeringDB tutorial support. There is a URL. Click on it just to confirm that you really have sent the information. If you did not get it, there is also a resend button for the confirmation email. Click on that button, and what you also see here is later on, for example, you will be able to change your email address and also your password. In the top, you also see since a couple of months, we do not only have English as the language for PeeringDB. Currently fully translated are Portuguese as well as German, which does perhaps not help most of you. Just try out. As a hint from me, please do not choose languages you don't understand, because the menu to select the language, of course, will also change. And you probably will not be able to change it back to a language you understand. Got it so far? Everyone is happy? Okay. So once you did that, you also will see something. You will not be able to do anything useful unless you affiliate yourself with an organization. And this is where the information on the sheet of paper comes now in. Every one of you have got a sheet of paper with different information. The first, what you see on this sheet is in the big capital. This is the AS number. It does start at 64501 as far as I know. And it says it's a training sheet, the AS number, and then you find the rest of the information. The name of your training company, and then a description what your company is. Got it so far? Anyone without a sheet? No? Perfect. So as I said, these ASNs only work on the tutorial database, because these are documentation ASNs and they are completely blocked from the working database. You will not even be able to input it. So what we now do is get affiliated, your company. Perhaps it's already in PeeringDB. You can, if, as said, you can also work on the existing PeeringDB, but some might not work then. Okay? So once approved, typically for the tutorial, your request will automatically being approved. So what in the background there's running a process. What does the process? It takes the information which ASN, for example, you have typed in, then it queries the RIRs, more precisely the RDEP information from the RIR, takes all the information out of it, the company name and so on, and also looking for email addresses. And if the email addresses you registered with matches some email address in the RIR's information, you automatically get approved. If it does not, a ticket will be open with the support department, and the support department will look into it. As said, for the tutorial, the affiliation with the company should be auto-acknowledged. Right? So, and you also will be the admin of your organization. So next is what you will do. Log in. you find on the upper right corner, it's always on the upper right corner where you have the edit button. Click on the edit button and then it will immediately change to save or, what is it, discard? Or no, cancel. It says cancel or save. Got it? Nope. Okay. So now let's focus on the left side of the screen and enter the required information. As said, you find all the information on the sheet of paper. You see? Over here. Not necessarily where your company is based, but what type of network it is, at least the city where it is located, and the country where it is, and also you can put in notes if you want. For those who came later, please pick up a sheet over here. If you are sitting together, maybe one will do, otherwise you also need one. So now I would suggest, because I run out of information for different organizations, who got the A? Who is the A? Who is the A network? Oh, you got one. Okay, perfect. Okay. So, what you can do is, although we, in real life, we take the information from the RIRs, you, as an admin, you can almost change everything. You can also change the name of your company, of course, the email address, then the address where your company is. Just put in the city, country code, and in the note fields, if you are familiar with Markdown, you can also play around with that to make you more visible. Once you are done, as said, either click on cancel, then everything you have typed in so far will not be there, otherwise please save. And just play around with saving, type in something, save it, edit it again, and see what happens then. So now it really gets interesting, because what we have done so far is put in information about your company. Just to tell a little bit more about how PeeringDB is set up as a database, the company more or less holds the root information, and from that, this is also which you will need or found out for the API. It's always referenced in the net object, in the facility object, and the IX object. You always have a reference to your organization. So this is the root, and the organization holds different objects. This is the net. Facilities, you see over here, the facilities and the networks, and what we are now concentrating on is working on the network on the AS number. Got it? So the same with the network. In the top right corner, you again have the edit button. Click on it. So what you are not able to change is the organization, because that is one level up. So it's the first time when you are working with PeeringDB, it might not seem to be very intuitive which level you have to work on. But once you get used to it, it becomes clear. So the next one is also known as. This is especially, for example, if you have a brand where you're working on the service you are better known as, or the other way around, you typically type in your network the brand you are using for your service, and then in the also known as the real name, or if you have changed your name, and so on and so on. Next is the company website. Definitely, this is what you perhaps also have put in already at the organization. Do it here as well. Then we have a reminiscent from PeeringDB 1. It says primary ASN. This is not useful anymore, really. So in old PeeringDB, there was no concept of an organization. So you had to create a maintainer or an account for every network you typed in. And this is still left over. Don't really care about that. So the next one then is the RIR record. And I guess I have perhaps to tell more about that. RIR, where does it stand for? Does anyone know? You do? Anyone else? So RIR, it stands for Internet Routing Registry. And what is it? What should I type in over here? So the Internet not only consists of one ASN, and if you are a service provider, perhaps what may happen is that your customers also have ASNs. So that means when you route, you have a lot of ASNs also behind you. You have your own ASNs, and perhaps you do not only have one ASN, but you have a couple of ASNs. And what this field is for is an information about the set of networks, the set of ASNs you are responsible for. And instead of listing each ASN, what you do is to create a record with a name, and every time it changes, you only change this record, and then immediately all of your other peers will be able to retrieve this information. That means once you have put in a name over here, you have created an IIR record, or also known as ASHET. Everyone who is interchanging information with you will be able to retrieve this information and automatically will be able to update it. So an IIR record or an ASHET has to have a certain looking. It has to start, if it's only an asset, with AS something, dash, but, or let me rephrase it. So there are a couple of RIR databases. There is not only one. Almost every RIR, routing information registry, has an RIR. Then big service providers also have RIRs. So as of today, I guess there are maybe 10 to 15 RIRs around. And unfortunately, you could put in the same name in different databases. So it's best current practices to start with your AS number, AS something, a colon, and then a name. This is unique. Only you are allowed to use an AS set with start AS, your AS number. And because you are the only holder of your AS, this will be unique across all IIR databases. I guess this was perhaps a little bit fast, but just put in something like here. You type in your AS number, AS, and then the AS number, colon, AS, and then perhaps only the company name, just to have it over there. Okay? The next two fields are about if you provide a URL to your route server. Most networks perhaps don't do, but what you might have is a looking glass. Type it in or leave it empty, and that again, just click on save. So there are, I guess there are still more fields. We talked about the IO record, route server looking glass. Next is the network type. The network type you have to choose from the drop-down, and you have to look on your sheet of paper what network type your ASN is. Got it?
Yes, so for IRR, is the AS set retrieved from there? So is the AS set retrieved from the IRR record?
Yes, if for example, a peer of yours is peering with you, it will take the information from the IIR record then. But you have to register the IIR record with an IIR database. It could be a PNIC, for example, it could be AfriNIC, it could be RIPE. Entity also has a database used somewhere, at least at one database you have to register it with. Okay? Does that answer your question? Okay. So the other microphone, where is it? It's over there. Okay, got it. So as said, then select from the drop-down the network type, and also for this is also a little bit misleading sometimes. The IPv4 prefixes and IPv6 prefixes, especially for small networks, they think they have to type in the addresses they got from the RIR. This is not. This is just about the number of prefixes you have. Maybe you should perhaps not. So there is 33, which is fine. I would not recommend really to go beyond 10. So if you go in 10, 50, adjust to give an idea how big your network is. And also to give an idea, most other networks will interpret this number as the maximum of prefixes you will announce. This is something, this is a term which you will find if you configure your BGP session. There is a maximum prefix. If someone is peering with you and sees that you, for example, have written, I will never announce more than 10 networks, and then all of a sudden you announce 100 networks, it will most likely then shut down the session to you to prevent from any damage to the rest of the world. So this information is especially important because this is something which may change over time. For example, if you got a new customer with a lot of network behind itself, then you will have to adapt that. The next is only to give your peers an idea about the traffic level and the traffic ratios. In former times, this made even more sense because of the peering policy. Someone were only peering with inbound networks, outbound networks, and so on and so on. So just choose something you like. You cannot type in values. You also have to select a value from the drop-down. You're also free to not disclose this information, and you simply say, do not disclose or not disclose. Same is for traffic ratios and for geographic scope. This means there is selected on this slide is regional. You perhaps will get rid of it because after some discussions we were not really able to decide what does regional mean. So I guess it says global and then it says Europe, Asia or something like that. The next field is protocol supported, just to click on. Nowadays, I guess, most of the networks should at least click on unicast, IPv4 and IPv6. Multicast, I guess perhaps no one will click on, and we will get rid of it. Last updated, you will not be able to edit this, but you see over here when this record was last updated. And again, you are able to put notes in here in Markdown as in every other node field. Questions so far? Good. Still more information to type in. This is a PeeringDB configuration. There is the field allow IXP update. This is definitely something I have to talk more about. We have a feature where we, in PeeringDB, where we import information from Internet Exchange points in the so-called IXDATE format. If a IXP has decided to provide this information and you tick this box, then you don't have to do anything with providing information at this IXP you are connected to, because we automatically import the information from the IX. Perhaps a little bit hard to understand. We have, for this information, if you click on our website and go on documentation, we have described it in a little bit more detail what this feature does. If you are unsure in real life what it does, this slide say you probably want to do. I would say if you are unsure about it and uneasy about it, just leave it. Don't do that. Maybe better. Next is the peering policy information. This is a field where you can put in a URL to a document where you describe your peering policy. Typically, this is a one-pager where you say, I'm company XYZ or network XYZ, and my peering policy is open. I peer with everyone who wants, but you at least have to have a PeeringDB record, or I only peer with networks which have certain size. And you perhaps will also find contact information or more information about the networks, how to contact them in any case, and so on and so on. Generally, I would advise, even if you are a small network, provide a URL where your peers can find information, more information about your general policy. And this is more or less, in short, 4 criteria for your peering policy. This is the most important, perhaps, for the general policy. You can see you also have to choose from a drop-down. It says open. Open means you are willing to peer with everyone. For example, most of the CDNs, they have an open policy because the CDNs, they want to get their traffic off as good and as fast as possible. So when as soon as you comply to other criteria, as for example have a PeeringDB record, they are willing to peer with you. There are other networks which have a restricted, for example, they say, okay, I'm only willing to peer with you if you are present in multiple locations, because they are not willing to take your traffic from somewhere and have it to transport across their backbone. They say, no, I'm only willing to peer with you if you are also in places where I am. For example, if you have at least 1 POP in Asia, 1 in Europe, and 1 in the US. Because then, for them, they can take the traffic at the closest exit or ingress. I said in former times, ratio requirement was often a criteria. Ratio requirement is that the amount of network of traffic had to be balanced. Just click here as well and choose what you think your policy is. And as I said, the sheet exactly say what your policy is. Just go after this and select the information from the sheet of paper. There was someone joining us later. If you want to have a sheet, also come here. But then you perhaps have to join someone else. Okay? Did everyone manage to put in the information? And the last thing I did not yet talk about is the contract requirement. A study, this simply is also information from the drop-down menu. A study about interconnections in internet says that roughly, I guess, 95% around that number of interconnections do not need a contract. A written contract. It's a verbal one. In most cases, if, for example, a network shows up at an internet exchange, then the internet exchange announces its new network, and then as a new network, you get tons of emails saying, hey, I want to peer with you, and then you say, okay, I'm willing to do so, and there is no need for a written piece of paper. Just set up a BGP sessions, direct them, for example, to your PeeringDB record, and then you are done. Of course, it's also fine if you're, for example, you're a bigger organization in your legal department requires a written piece of paper, to also have it filled out for your peers. Then we come to the next field. This is the contact information, where you are able to choose from different role accounts, and at least what you should provide is information about app use and a NOC. This is, I would say, I'd recommend at the minimum, and perhaps also who to contact for peering, if you want to set up peering. These information should definitely be in there. As said, we already have app use, perhaps should be public. There are 3 views. This is public. That means anyone is able to see this information without to have login to PeeringDB. I talked about it, that we have the public view and that we have the login view. For app use, definitely it's recommended to have. Then the role NOC. This information, I would not disclose it to the public because the necessity to contact your NOC is only for those who are already peering with you or want to peering with you. You should then set it to users. We have another view which is called, I don't not even know, internal or so, which is, I do not really know what it is for, because it's only visible to those from your organization. For me, it does not really make sense, but it's still there. Okay. So let's recap. You know, I've entered information about your organization, like the address, website, additional notes you want to publish, your AS number, number of prefixes you announce, traffic information, your policy, contact information, and as some of this information does not last forever, please check it every now and then. So the contact information perhaps might, especially the email addresses, the role accounts, they will stay forever, but what may happen is that the telephone number changes, perhaps, or if your network is growing, hopefully the traffic level might change, your traffic policy might change. So my advice is at least check every year whether this information still is correct. When you have typed in the information, check it, and then type save. Okay? So this is really the basic. What we have now done so far is put in information about your organization, and your network. So now we come to a next interesting part, and that is how to add information about peering at an internet exchange point. You see this information on the same page as inputting your network information. Again, go on Edit on the top right. And then in the field Exchange, start to put in information about the exchange you want to connect to. You do not find you have information about that as well. I guess everyone connects to the Vienna Internet Exchange, and hopefully every one of you have got a different IP address. So first what you do is put your cursor in the field exchange and simply start to type VIX, and then hopefully already at least the Vienna Internet Exchange should show up. So the exchange is VIX, blank AT, and then it should show up. If it's there, simply choose the Internet Exchange and then type in the rest of the information. The local ASN is already pre-filled. As you can see, you also have a drop-down over there. So why do you have a drop-down over there? I already explained it now. Some organizations do not only have one ASN, and they have a couple of ASN. For example, ISC, they run the root service, and for each root service, they decided to have a different AS, for example. And to make it easy, you will be able to choose the ASN which you are using at this Internet Exchange. But for you, if you go on the drop-down, you should be able only to choose the ASN you so far have typed in. Next is type in the IPv4 and IPv6 address, the speed, and whether you are peering with a route server or not. You see? So this sheet, for example, says for network A, you are connected with 1 gigabit to the Vienna Internet Exchange at Interaction Vienna with IPv4 address 192.203.0.222, and the IPv6 address I do not read out loud, just put it in. Okay? And then click on Save. Oh, no, not click on Save. Please do not click on Save. Click on Add Exchange Point first. If you click on Save, then everything is gone, unfortunately. So click on Save, and then click on Add Exchange, and then on Save. Got it? Okay. So, and this you can repeat for every exchange you are connected to. So save it, and then start again. If you type in, for example, if you type in an A, then perhaps already a couple of internet exchanges show up. If you type in links, for example, you would be able to choose from links at least 3 internet or 4 or 5 internet exchanges. The London 1, the London 2, they are Nova, they are Manchester, wherever. It's clear so far what you have to do when to add an internet exchange. So what might be tempting is, remember when you were at the level of your organization, there were also a field where you said add internet exchange. If you go back to your organization, you will see add internet exchange, and this is also a little bit unclear. So what some people think, I want to add my connection to the internet exchange, I go over there, and then they type in all the information just to find out that we send an email back and say, no, you are not an internet exchange. What you really want to do is to go to your network level and then put in the information. Got it? And it's the same with the next information, which is just below the Internet Exchange information, is where you can put in the information on the data centers where you are. So this is kept separate because it may be that you don't do a lot of public peering, but you do a lot of private peering. That means then you will be at a lot of data centers, but you not necessarily will have a lot of public peerings. This works the same. Besides one difference, you are not able to choose your local ASN. For that, you have then go back to the other network. But besides from that, in the field facility, simply start to type in either the name or some string which is in the description of the data center or facility. So next is to, for example, now go to Wix. Everyone, I guess, have put in the information perhaps to VIX in Vienna. Try to find this Internet Exchange from the search field. Go to the top of PeeringDB, tutorial PeeringDB, type in VIX, go to VIX, and then on the right-hand side, you should be able to find the information about your network within all the other networks which are already there. Okay. Okay, good. So I guess the tutorial runs until 4 o'clock, right? So typically what was intended to do is also to exchange information between the group, but I will skip this. And so what in a smaller group, perhaps what I would have done is that we exchange information. You give your sheet to someone else, and then from that information, look at his or her PeeringDB record and find out whether you will be able to find this information, whether the information is typed in correctly or not. At least for example, what you also can do is, because all of the tutorial ASs, they start with 645. 0, 1 is the first one, up to 20. Just look up the information and look what the others have typed in. I guess that will do. Yeah, let's do that for 5 minutes. And also I guess we will cover that in the upcoming minutes. Just try to find out whether you are already familiar with PeeringDB, browse it a little bit around, try to re-edit, try to remember what the fields are for. And also, if you have questions, don't be shy to grab the mic, which is over there, and ask a question. sometimes you have to combine the information.
Yeah, it's having to join two different table
Yes,
sets. and
yeah.
a few
This
processes.
is a little bit,
That's why, yeah, as I said,
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, if it was that guy, that would be awesome.
yeah,
Oh, it's all good.
yeah, perfect. Okay, so now let's resume. Though as PeeringDB really, PeeringDB was basically made for networks to put the information in, and this is also why we covered more than 1 hour on describing everything around the networks. Put in your information, put in every information about networks. But as I said, with PeeringDB 2.0, we did a complete rewrite of the database, and now we have the top level, which is the organization, and from this organization there are hanging off more records, which is the networks, of course, and then we have the facilities and the exchanges, and the users, of course, also. So if you are an organization and also have a facility or only have a facility, so what you do is go to the level of your organization, and there you are able to add information about the facility. But as said, some users, because there is also at exchange, they think this is the right place to add information about your connection to an exchange. It's not. These fields or this are only for if you are running a own collocation, if you have a collocation center, if you run an internet exchange, and the other fields are for users and permissions. So let's go to the Add Your Facility. Just click on it. It's pre-clicked. Then you can fill in the information, name, and so on and so on. And when you are done, you click on Submit Facility, and what this then will do is it will kick off an email which goes to the support department, to the admin committee. So when, as said, the CILI and NPA Annex X, this probably is only useful for those in the US, where it makes sense to. At least you have to put in the name. Unfortunately, also not yet, but we will add it soon. The website information, then the address. This is especially very, very useful because definitely the networks want to know where your facility is, and the city, zip code, country, and then click on Submit Facility. Another way to submit information about a facility is if you go to the starting website and go to the menu right to your username, you will find a button where it says Suggest Facility. We have added this a couple of months ago. The reason for that is most of the networks are pretty happy, and also the internet exchange know about PeeringDB. Not all collocations do. But networks, when they are in a facility, they want to let the others know that they are in the facility so that they might be found. Therefore, we have a button, Suggest Facility. If you type on that, the same mask will pop up. Just fill in the same information and send it to us. We will immediately see that this facility is not put in by the owner, but by someone who is suggesting it, and we will even look into it more carefully. But please use it if you know about a facility, what you think, or where you are in, or where you think it would be useful to have it in PeeringDB, just suggest it. Better to have it than not to know about it. So, the next is adding users. So adding users is not really possible. You are not able as an admin or a member to add another user. If someone wants to be a user of PeeringDB, it has to register. This field is only for manipulating the existing users in it. And I should have said the main reason is that with one account you are now able to maintain hundreds of organizations, hundreds of networks, of course, because the user gets permission for the organization, whereas with the old database, for every network, you had to have an own account. As already mentioned, the first user who is added to PeeringDB is a so-called admin. The admin is more or less a super user. He is able to do everything. The other type of account is a member account. The member account is the read-only. He is not able to see all the information, and the member account is also not able to change anything. Okay. So what you now can do is, if you go to the landing page and type on your account, you see that you will be able to request affiliation to another organization. And what you can do is, just to try out, type in an ASN between 64501 and 64520, I guess. I have handed out sheets for everything. What will that do is it kicks off an email to the admin of the other organization. And this is also the way you get permission to maintain other organizations, if there already is one, or if you want to be affiliated with different organizations. Make sense? And what also happens in I said, go to your profile page and then request affiliation with another AS number. It doesn't really make sense to go via the name, because if the person is not here, it perhaps will not get the email. And I also do not know if really, maybe that you also are automatically affiliated with the organization. Just try it out. But if you are on the real database, it will work that way. And also, what happens is, for example, if you take over a responsibility for a network and you request affiliation for that network, you should either get a response from PeeringDB itself, because your request has to be approved by the PeeringDB admins. This will typically happen within, let's say, not later than 12 hours, or with the existing admin. Of course, what may happen is that the existing admin already has left, is not longer working for it. If you have waited for more than, let's say, 2 to 3 or 5 days, then you definitely should contact the PeeringDB support. Then something is wrong. We will be able to look up whether there is an admin and give you more insight in who is the admin, and you then will be able to contact her or him, or we will be able to resolve the issue. You see, this was what the fields were for. And as an admin, if there is a new user, you get an email, you log in, and then you will be able to either approve or deny this request. And what you also can do is, from the drop-down, make it an admin or leave it as a member. Yeah? Just wait a second.
What is the permission difference between a member and an admin?
So admin is the user account which will be is able to change everything. It has read and write permissions, whereas a member only you have read permissions. You are able to read information. You are registered users. You also will be able to read information from other networks where you need user permissions, for example, NOC information or so, but you will not be able to change anything. If you think you should be able to change anything, then you definitely have to be an admin or to get more permissions. This is what the other tab is for. You see on the next tab on the right side, it says permissions. With permissions, I do not go into that in detail, but as far as I know, it is more easy to use. With permissions, if for example, if you are a large organization, for example, like a Megaport, they run exchanges, they have a couple of networks, they are all over the world, and they definitely want, for example, to implement this user is responsible for the US networks and internet exchanges. This user is responsible for the Asian networks or Australian networks, and then you can do it with the permissions. Or with even larger organizations like Equinix. Equinix has tons of networks, they have collocations, they have internet exchanges, they have different people who take care for different types. You can see, you cannot read it here, but if you go on your browser, you see that you can select from here for the different roles you want to assign to a user. Okay? And to the last thing on the right side, what you see is you are also, as an admin, you are able to remove users. What does it mean? If you click on remove users, it will only remove this account from your organization. It does not remove the account at all from the database. I said the reason is very simple. As one user is able to administer and maintain different organization, if you would be able to remove her or him completely, then all the other functions would also be deleted. It will only delete the user from your organization. Okay? And if you think, for example, you pretty much know that this user also is in no other database, other organization or so, you just drop an email to support, and we then will be able to completely remove a user. Or if you want, your own account to be removed. Make sense? So, next is to remove information. This is also something people often ask for. If you look at an object, for example, if you go back to your network information, you see this bluish cross, both at the entry for your internet exchange as well as for your facility. If you click on that, this will remove your entry. To be safe, you will be asked if you really want to do that. So you might try to click on that, and it should ask you, do you really want to remove it? Then you have to say, yes, I want to remove it. This is especially, please do that if you, for example, are not longer connected to an exchange, for whatever reason. And the reason behind it is because you use an IP address, and what may happen is that the next customer who gets connected to this exchange will be handed out the same IP address sooner or later. And as the IP address is a key value, it should only be handed out once. The new user network will not be able to put in the information. And it tries and will not be able to do that. Okay? Same is for the collocation information and any other field where you see such a bluish cross. If you click on it, this will definitely remove the information. And as I said, it's safe to do so because every time you will be asked to whether you want to remove it or not. The last thing is what we do not do in PeeringDB is we do not really remove any record. Internally, we only set a flag. We have a flag which marks a record as OK, and as long as it is marked as OK, it's also visible to the outside world. And if it's marked, or if you click on delete, what we do is we simply mark it as deleted when it is not shown anymore. And for that reason, you are also not able to re-add it because it's already in the database. It's in the database, but only marked as deleted. So what sometimes happened is, especially for networks, you said, oh, this looks so messy, I just remove it and type in everything again. When you do it, you will find out as soon as you type in the AS number and all the other information and click on submit, it says no, this network is already there. If you have done it, so basically there is actually no need to remove something unless you are really sure I do not longer possess this ASN. I do have perhaps also sold the collocation or whatever, then you perhaps remove it. Otherwise, if you just want to make it new, please don't do it. And if you have done it, incidentally, drop us an email at support@peeringdb.com. Every time when you need help and before you think what you have done wrong, don't think about it. It's better to ask us. We are there to help. Okay. And I guess I already run a little bit over time, but this was also my last slide. Thank you very much. So if you have any question, please feel free to ask it now. You can also come to me if you have any questions, or if drop an email to support@peeringdb.com, or to me personally, which is arnold@peeringdb.com.
Thank you very much for the wonderful workshop. I have two small questions. One is to register a public peering or a private facility. Do I have to send an email for that, or like is it available on the website? And secondly, are virtual internet exchanges permitted? Meaning, like if there are a few virtual internet. Yeah, sure.
Every question. So, as soon as you enter the information, it is visible instantly. You see? For example, if you put in the information that you are connected to an internet exchange, put in the IP address, that does not need additional approval.
Sorry if I phrased the question wrong, but I mean, like if I have a say, if I want to register, say, a private peering facility, how do I do that? Like, can I do it on the website, or do I contact you on email?
So to put in the information, you just
Say if I am starting a private internet facility wherein a couple of friends are peering together. So,
so if you want to put in your collocation, so what you do is you register, and then you go to your organization, and then you go to the organization, and then you have the tab where it says Add Facility, and then there you add the information about your collocation. As soon as you have done and put the button on Submit Facility, we get an email. We either approve it or deny it, and as soon as we approve it, it will show up in the list of facilities. It's the same with internet exchange points. Does it answer your question? On your second question?
Yeah, second question is if I want to start a virtual internet exchange wherein like I run a GRE tunnel to a central server and like people can peer there, is that permitted, or is this exclusively for physical facilities?
So far, we do not make a distinction between a physical internet exchange or virtual internet exchange. It's completely up to you, but at least I guess it would be nice to put in a note to say this is a virtual internet exchange. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that answers.
Okay. Any other questions? So thank you very much, and as said, you have still the sheet of paper, you have access to the tutorial, and if you want to work on your live data, there is the other website, PeeringDB.com, where you are able to work with. Thank you very much.